What is going on, hockey fans? It is, as always, the host of NHL Weekly, Neil Villapiano, and welcome to another edition of NHL Weekly right here exclusively on the Hockey Podcast Network and the Hockey Podcast Network YouTube channel. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day, out of your Monday to check these episodes out again. We have weekly episodes every Monday afternoon, getting you up to date with the latest news going around the National Hockey League. And I thank you as always for taking time. Make sure to leave a like on this video if you like it. Also, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time we post a new episode of NHL Weekly here on the YouTube channel. And as always, our episodes are sponsored by our friends over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And sports fans, with the World Series going on, the NBA just got underway. Obviously, the NHL is in full swing, and both the NFL and college football also rocking and rolling. You already know that DraftKings Sportsbook is your number one destination to get in on all of the huge cash prizes. So, when you sign up for DraftKings, make sure to use our promo code THPN, and don't forget to tell them that your boy Neil Villapiano sent you. And as always, a big thank you and shout out to our sponsors over at DraftKings Sportsbook for being the official sports betting partner of the Hockey Podcast Network. And remember, sports fans, make sure to bet responsibly. So we have a lot of interesting things to talk about here on this episode, but it would be bad of me if I did not mention what was probably the most important and probably the saddest thing that we got this past week, as we learned that former Pittsburgh Penguin and NHL player Adam Johnson died at the age of 29 over the weekend after a freak accident during an Elite Ice Hockey League game, which I believe is over in Europe. So this came as obviously a very tragic news story. Johnson unfortunately took a skate blade to the neck, and reports are coming out that he was basically gone before the trainers could even get to him. Former Penguins player Adam Johnson died at 29 following a freak accident in England on Saturday. Johnson's team, the Nottingham Panthers, shared a tragic news early Sunday morning, and I will quickly read it to you guys. So, the Nottingham Panthers are truly devastated to announce that Adam Johnson has tragically passed away following a freak accident at the game in Sheffield last night. The Panthers would like to send our thoughts and condolences to Adam's family, his partner, and all of his friends at this extremely difficult time. Everyone at the club, including players, staff, management, and ownership, are heartbroken at the news of Adam's passing. Our thoughts are also with the fans and the staff of both clubs, especially those who attended or were following the game, who will be devastated following today's news. The Panthers would like to thank everyone who rushed to support Adam last night in the most testing of circumstances. Adam, our number 47, was not only an outstanding ice hockey player, but also a great teammate and an incredible person with his whole life ahead of him. The club will dearly miss him and will never ever forget him. We ask that the privacy of Adam's family and friends and everyone at the club is respected at this difficult time as we all seek to come to terms with our grief. Rest in peace, Adam. And so again, that came from the Nottingham Panthers, the team that Adam Johnson had been playing for. He played 2 seasons in the NHL with the Pittsburgh Penguin. Minnesota native, also spent time playing in the American Hockey League, Sweden, and also Germany. Pittsburgh Penguins also put out a statement saying the Pittsburgh Penguins joined the entire hockey world in mourning the loss of Adam Johnson, whose life tragically ended far too soon. We offer our deepest condolences to Adam's family and friends, as well as of Adam's past and present teammates and coaches. Adam will always be a part of the Penguins family. It was our honor to watch him fulfill his dream of playing in the National Hockey League. And unfortunately, this incident happened during the second period of Saturday's EIHL game as play was stopped. Johnson took a skate blade to the neck. Players initially formed a ring around Johnson while waiting for protective screens to go up, but minutes after they were sent to locker rooms as it became clear how serious the situation was. Fans were also asked to leave the arena because of a major medical emergency. Who was given emergency treatment on the ice and was taken to Sheffield's Northern General Hospital. And following the incident, the EIHL announced that all of Sunday's games would be postponed. And that is pretty much what we have. And a lot of people have been, like I said before, I've been hearing over the last 24 hours that that basically he was gone before he even got to the hospital. And it's one of those moments that really is going to push more that all hockey players need to wear neck guards. We have to remember that, contrary to popular belief, hockey is one of, if not the most dangerous sport to play, because you have guys going at super fast speeds on slippery, cold, hard ice with metal skates and metal blades, that can do serious damage. We've seen it in the years past where guys have suffered major injuries when particularly a skate blade comes up and hits you in the neck. There's that one infamous situation long ago where a Buffalo Sabres goaltender was cut from a skate blade under his neck and he was bleeding right away. Luckily for him, he was able to survive that, but it was an incredibly scary time. And unfortunately for Adam Johnson, he was not so lucky. And so really, it's an incredible tragedy. It's incredibly sad. It's so unfortunate. But I really do hope that what we can take from this is to demand, not ask, not hope that people volunteer, but demand that all hockey players, whether it's in the AHL or in Pee Wees, that they wear neck guards. I did see that a bunch of the Providence Bruins players, the Boston Bruins AHL affiliate, were wearing neck guards last night. I think that is important. I think we need to push the envelope with this a lot, because it's going to give players a better chance of not having these type of incidents and tragedies happen again. And so, unfortunately for Adam Johnson, something like this had to happen to him in order for this message to be pushed a lot more. And I'm sure for Adam Johnson, he did not wake up that morning thinking that this was going to be the last time he would wake up. And it's really sad. It's really sad. It's really tragic. Thoughts and prayers go out to the Johnson family during this obviously excruciatingly difficult time. I feel very bad for all the players and coaches and even the fans who unfortunately had to see that and deal with that. And now they have to try to figure out how to grieve and how to move forward after something like that. We'll see what happens with the EIHL over the next couple of days, see how they want to operate. Wanted to give a shout out to the Ontario Reign, the Los Angeles Kings AHL affiliate. Last night after their win, the first star of the game, they gave it to Adam Johnson, and they actually had a jersey for him and they put it on the ice. It was incredibly big for the Ontario Reign to do that. I'm sure there will be more honorings going on over the next couple of days and into this week. But again, rest in peace to Adam Johnson, who again died at the age of 29 after a freak accident over the weekend where a skate blade cut his neck, and ultimately he lost his life. And once again, I am demanding that we make a serious decision to have all NHL and all hockey players wear neck guards so that we have a less likely chance of something like this ever happening again. Nobody should lose their life trying to just play a sport that they all love and trying to achieve a goal and a dream that they had since they were kids. And that's the way I look at it. So, rest in peace to Adam Johnson, who again died at the age of 29. And as the Nottingham Panthers put it, and as a lot of people put it, he will never be forgotten. And hopefully this will create real change moving forward. So it's very difficult to obviously move forward in our episode today after the tragic news that we got over the weekend. But let's try to, heal together a little bit and talk about some positive and interesting things that happened in the NHL world over this past week. And we're going to start with the big spectacle that happened last night, and that is the 2023 Heritage Classic between the Calgary Flames and the Edmonton Oilers. And the Edmonton Oilers were able to end their 4-game losing streak, coming away with a 5-2 win in Edmonton, or basically in Edmonton, against their hated Alberta rivals. This game was played in the Edmonton Elks of the Canadian Football League, their stadium. So this was kind of a big event for them. The Oilers came out swinging in the first period, notching 3 goals as Kulak, Zach Hyman, and Evan Bouchard all had goals in this one. Evander Kane added 2 goals in the third period, although I think they actually ended up giving it to Desharnais. So actually Desharnais got one, and then Evander Kane got himself a goal on an empty netter. That made it 5-2. AJ Greer and Nazem Kadri, who finally got his first goal of the year, were the goal scorers for the Calgary Flames. The big story actually in this Heritage Classic was the fact that Connor McDavid, who has only been out for about a week, and if you remember in our last episode last Monday, we talked about it looked like McDavid was going to be out 1 to 2 weeks with an injury. Well, apparently he was well enough to play in this game. He actually did end up, I think he got 1 point, maybe 2. I'm going to quickly double check here just to make sure. He did end up with an assist, the secondary assist on the Evan Bouchard goal late in the first period. So McDavid was able to pick up right where he left off. Leon Draisaitl had himself a really, really good game. I thought the goaltending from Stuart Skinner was great. I did want to give credit, though. I did want to give credit to Jakob Markstrom, who, even though, like, again, when you look at it, he gave up 4 goals, you could kind of sit there and say to yourself, well, maybe he didn't play all that well. He ended up stopping 26 of 30 shots. I felt like he was very strong in net. I felt that he gave the Flames a good enough chance to try to make a comeback in this one, but it ultimately was just not meant to be. He was able to go 3 for 3 on the penalty kill, which I thought was important. Excuse me, he stopped 29 of 33 shots. Excuse me. And so, yeah, you kind of feel bad for Markstrom that he was not able to do enough, but didn't get a whole lot of support as the Flames are now on a 5-game losing streak. So going into this game, ladies and gentlemen, both of these teams in this Battle of Alberta outdoors were on 4-game losing streaks respectively. So obviously this was a must-win for both teams, and the Oilers were able to get themselves a much-needed win on the, you could call it on the road. The funny thing is that TNT last night was saying this is the first win for Edmonton at home. Technically, it wasn't a home game because they weren't playing in their arena, but it is the first time the Oilers have won a game in Edmonton this year, and it was a special one nonetheless. So again, with the win, the Oilers finally get themselves a much-needed win after losing 4 in a row, while the Flames now are on a 5-game losing streak. So I think if you're Calgary, I think really I know again it's still relatively early in the season, but I think it's time to start considering the Flames being one of those teams that's going to be major sellers at the deadline. I mean, when you look at what has happened over the last year and a half with, Johnny Gaudreau leaving in free agency, Matthew Tkachuk being traded to Florida, Tyler Toffoli being traded from Calgary to New Jersey, and all of the negative press. Nikita Zadorov, really getting on his teammates over the last couple of days about their lack of good play. Jakob Markstrom not really giving definitive answers as to what the vibe is in the locker room. So I think overall, I hate to say it, but it is really a big mess going on in Calgary right now. And I think you have to start really considering the Flames being a big seller at the deadline. I've seen already a bunch of Flames fans talk about that. It is time to start seriously considering beginning to tank. They are right now one of the worst teams in the NHL. They are really struggling in all facets of the game. And I think you have to start making those decisions relatively soon, because if things continue to spiral out of control, if they continue to lose games, right now, again, they're currently on a 5-game losing streak after their loss to Edmonton in the Heritage Classic, you have to really start to consider this, and you have to start considering the long-term decision-making from Calgary. And I think that decision-making kind of started with Johnny Gaudreau leaving in free agency, and then obviously Tkachuk leaving, and now, Tyler Toffoli leaving and everything like that. I remember hearing about Jonathan Huberdeau over the offseason was saying how last year was just not fun for him. It was really hard. Not saying that was because of the Flames. I think that was more just the fact that he got traded from Florida, but not a lot of positive things to look at if you're a Calgary Flames fan right now. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But bottom line there, good win, much needed win for Edmonton. And obviously the losing continues for the Calgary Flames. But that is our first major, kind of one of our first major events of the year, outdoor game. Got a couple more. I think the next one next outdoor game will be the 2024 NHL Winter Classic in Seattle between the Kraken and the Vegas Golden Knights. We'll have a couple of outdoor games in February with the Devils taking on the Philadelphia Flyers at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. And then the following day, the Rangers and Islanders will play in that same stadium. Both of those games are Stadium Series games. So another major event in the books, another great outdoor spectacle. And going to leave it with just saying that personally, I am a fan of Nickelback. Clearly, Connor McDavid is as well. I still don't really understand the dislike and the hatred towards Nickelback. Leave your thoughts in the comments, by the way, about that. Would love to hear it. Just kind of understanding. But overall, great spectacle. Another great outdoor game. And we'll get a chance to see a bunch more later on in the year. Now, I want to shift to kind of some really interesting news that we got over this past week that is going to affect the future of the NHL draft. And we found out last week, last Wednesday, the NHL officially votes to change the draft format starting with the 2025 NHL draft. So to kind of give you some information here, Sportsnet's NHL insider Elliot Friedman revealed in one of his latest 32 Thoughts column that NHL teams have officially voted to, quote, decentralize, end quote, the NHL draft with the new format expected to take effect starting in the 2025 draft. This vote happened last Tuesday, October 24th, and 30 of the 32 teams in the National Hockey League voted in favor of the change. And we found that one of more potent factors in this change was the timing of the NHL draft. Free agency typically opens up on July 1st, and the draft has been held only days before. That makes for a very intense, cramped week that doesn't lend itself to the necessary strategic planning required to those nights. And some have also expressed concern about the current and previous format. With the tables arranged so close together, teams feel passively could eavesdrop on them and get an ear for what their goals and ideas might be. And so, you read here, is the NHL draft format a good thing for fans? Manner similar to that of the NBA draft and the NFL draft, where teams will send in their picks via war rooms, and the prospects will attend the physical draft alongside NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. And then Bettman, like you see in the NBA and NFL, he will be the one announcing the selections, and that's more or less that's pretty much it. And he also mentioned in 2024, with the draft being held at the famous Sphere in Las Vegas. This location has long been speculated as the home of next year's NHL draft, and it looks like that is exactly what it's going to be. So the Vegas Golden Knights are going to have another opportunity to kind of showcase the Sin City to the NHL world using that very famous Sphere that I have already seen a bunch of people and many videos on, so it should be really interesting. But the bottom line of this new NHL draft format is that basically you're not going to see teams there. You're not going to see GMs or anything else like that. You're going to mainly see people who will be representatives of each team that'll be sitting at tables that will get the call from their GMs to put in the name of whoever they want to draft, and they'll bring it up to the podium, and then Gary Bettman will make that decision. So whoever gets picked first overall in 2025, it'll be somewhat of a historic pick, since Gary Bettman will make his first ever call for someone getting drafted into the NHL. Although it kind of stinks, because I do like the old format and the uniqueness of it, of every GM going up there. But I could also understand where teams are coming from in terms of being crammed together. They feel like they can't really speak very much because other teams like overhearing and listening. So I get it. So it'll be similar to what we saw couple of years ago during the pandemic, when we had the draft, where everybody was in war rooms and just making decisions that way. So I think that's what we're going to see. So this upcoming draft, 2024, will be the last time we get the typical format. And then the following year, we will have the brand new format. So very interesting to say the least. And I'm really intrigued and definitely interested to see how this new format goes out. But as always, guys, let me know what you think about the format. Do you like it the way it is now? Do you like the new changes? What are your thoughts overall? Would love to interact and see what you guys think, and get your opinion on everything. So now we're down to our final two topics that I want to discuss on this on this episode. And the first one is we got a retirement announcement, and it was certainly a unique one nonetheless, and a guy who is considered fan favorite by many in the NHL, and that is the man they call Jumbo Joe, Joe Thornton, who officially announced his retirement after 24 years in the NHL, so well over 2 decades in the National Hockey League, nearly a quarter of a century playing in the NHL. He has not played since the 2021-22 season, which I think he was with I want to say it was the Panthers that year, because I know the year before that he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs in that shortened season. He finishes ranked in the top 15 in points, 12th overall to be exact. He announced his retirement on Saturday after 24 years, and he was, if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend you do. I think he was like at his stable riding one of his horses. He didn't have a shirt on. He had a pretty cool hat on, and he just casually mentioned like, hey, I kind of assumed that having not played for over a year plus, you guys would take the hint and assume that I have retired. And now he officially decided to retire. He says, hey, judging by how many people keep asking me, I guess I have to tell you. I'm officially retiring from the NHL. Thought you guys would have figured it out sooner, but you kept asking, so here I am retiring. I have so much love for the game of hockey and for countless number of people that helped this kid's dream become a reality. And if you're looking for me, you know where to find me. I'll be at the rink. Peace and love. And again, last played in 2021. He had 10 points, 5 goals, 5 assists. Only played in 34 games with, as I mentioned, the Florida Panthers. And he was a healthy scratch for all but one of the Panthers' 10 games they played in that Stanley Cup playoffs. And he also said, after that season, he was unsure about his future. And ultimately, there was that decision to officially retire from the National Hockey League. And so remember, he was number 1 overall pick back in 1997. He finishes with 1,539 points, 430 goals, and 1,109 assists, 7th in assists and 6th in games played in just over 1,700. And he played for the Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs, mostly with the San Jose Sharks. And of course, he played with the Boston Bruins. He played for the Sharks for 15 seasons from 2005 to 2020. Ranks first in Sharks history in assists, second in points, and third in games, and fourth in goals. And so I think when you think about Joe Thornton, you're going to mostly remember him as a member of the San Jose Sharks. There was that big time trade that sent him from Boston to San Jose, where he made a long career. He's going to be beloved, particularly by the San Jose Sharks organization and fan base. And if you think about that long period where the Sharks were consistently in the playoffs and making deep runs in the playoffs, Jumbo Joe Thornton was a big part of that. And it's unfortunate that, he could never lift Lord Stanley's Cup. He's one of those guys that you wish had the opportunity to. He went to a couple of the teams with the hope that he would get that opportunity, but it did not come to fruition. But nonetheless, Joe Thornton is well on his way to becoming a Hall of Famer. We'll see how many years it takes. I think it'll take like 5 years. So, 2028, I think, is going to be the first year that he will legitimately be ready. Even though he hasn't played in almost 2 seasons, he waited until now to officially announce his retirement. So congratulations to Jumbo Joe Thornton on what was a very long and very successful NHL career that is certainly on its way to becoming a Hall of Fame career as well. So Jumbo Joe Thornton retires from the NHL officially after 24 seasons of playing professional hockey. And last but certainly not least, I wanted to look at some of the stats and surprises, but really what I wanted to talk about, and I know it's going to sound a little biased, I'm wearing a hoodie with that team, and obviously I cover the Devils here on THPN, Devils State of Mind podcast, which you guys should definitely go check out. I want to talk about one of the big storylines early on in this season, and that is the impressive play of Jack Hughes, the Devils franchise player. In just 8 games, he has 5 goals, 13 assists for 18 points, which gives him currently a 2-point lead in the NHL for most points this year. So he is only 2 points away from reaching 20 already this year. He was on a 7-game point streak before he ended up getting 0 points in the Devils' most recent 4-3 win on Sunday night against the Minnesota Wild. But Jack Hughes has been absolutely killing it so far this year. He's only 8 goals away from his first 100, and he's still not even 23 years of age. He already has 133 assists and 225 points, as he is 48 games away from reaching 300. So later on this season, if he continues to remain healthy and playing obviously well, he will reach several big-time milestones. But if you look at even just the last 5 games, excluding this one against Minnesota, he had 2 goals, 2 assists against the Islanders for 4 points, added no goals but had 4 assists against Montreal. He added no goals but added 3 assists for 3 points against Washington, added a goal against the Buffalo Sabres, and obviously there. So if you look at it, that is roughly 4 plus 4 is 8, 11, 12. That's 12 points in the last 5 games for Jack Hughes. And you look at what he's done. He's coming off of that amazing 43 goal, 56 assist, and 99 point season last year. And he's well on his way to breaking a handful of his career records and definitely become the first Devil to reach over 100 points in a season. And right now, you could make a really good argument that Jack Hughes is the early favorite and front runner to win the Hart Trophy as league MVP. He is obviously, you'd like to see him get some more goals, but you know that he's mostly going to be a playmaker. Most of, if not almost all of his points, I think maybe 1 or 2 of his points, other than that, almost all of them have been primary, which is phenomenal as well. That means he's heavily in the play. Devils power play at 40% right now, best in the NHL. That's a big help as well to the young to the young kid from Orlando, Florida. He has just been on an absolute tear since the season started, and kind of a surprise that he did not end up getting a point against the Minnesota Wild, but it wasn't for a lack of trying either. I think the Wild definitely wanted to make sure that they did not get beat by Jack Hughes. They didn't, but his brother Luke ended up actually adding a couple of points, which, fun fact, Luke Hughes has more points right now than Connor Bedard, and Luke Hughes is making a good run early on to maybe make a push for Rookie of the Year. So the Hughes family certainly is going well. I think even Quinn leads the NHL in plus minus. He's got plus minus of plus 10, which is incredibly impressive. So the Hughes family doing very well right now, but Jack Hughes in particular making that early push to winning the Hart Trophy. Connor McDavid obviously missed a little bit of time, but now he's back. He got a point, like I mentioned before, in their win in the Heritage Classic. So we'll see how long it takes before McDavid really gets going again. There's some other really good guys rock and roll. Dylan Larkin's playing well right now. Austin Matthews playing well. Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes' teammate, who had a great game, a goal and several assists against the Wild in that game. He's up there in the top 3 in points as well. So maybe the Devils will have multiple guys pushing for some very high finishes for league MVP. But overall, just a tremendous start for Jack Hughes, and I feel confident that he will continue it, and we'll see if he can start a new point streak on Thursday when the Devils play again against the Minnesota Wild, this time in Minnesota. But on that note, hockey fans, that's going to do it for us here on this episode of NHL Weekly. As always, thank you guys so much for taking time out of your Monday to check these episodes out. If you like what you saw, make sure again to leave a like on the stream or the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified every time we post a new video, or we go live here on THPN with live watch-alongs every week, covering every single team in the National Hockey League with so many hosts like myself doing games. So make sure you guys are subscribed. We just reached over 4,000 subscribers here on YouTube, and let's continue to push to get to 5,000 by the end of the season. So share this with your family and friends. Get them to like and subscribe as well. Would greatly appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram at HockeyPodNet. On Twitter as well. Nope, not calling it the other thing, at HockeyPodNet. And follow my personal Twitter here, the NVP Show as well, so you can interact with me on there as well. And again, new episodes every Monday. So make sure you guys are getting ready to check out all of those episodes and get up to date with everything going on in the National Hockey League. So again, Thank you all so much for hanging out with us today on this edition of NHL Weekly, and we will see you next week for another episode. Peace and take care.